Hi there, this is Matt with Bicycle Adventures. Today I'm going to show you how I do bar tape. There are many different ways of doing bar tape. I know one way, and so that's what I'm going to show you. It doesn't mean it's the only correct way, but it's what I got. First we'll go over the supplies I'm going to use, and then I'll show you what I do. A good pair of scissors is important. Some plain electrical tape. You can get colored electrical tape if you want. And then the actual tape. The way that I wrap the tape, the extra pieces of the tape that come with it, I don't use it. There's also decorative finished stuff. This stuff I put in the trash can, or sometimes I save it for other projects. But I'll show you what I do. I start my tape at the bottom of the bars, and I like to remove the adhesive backing, and I start at the very bottom at the 6 o'clock, and I wrap over the top and toward myself. And so that means that I'm doing the opposite when I'm on the other side, but I'm still going over the top and toward myself when I'm standing on the other side of the bike. So I place the adhesive at the very bottom of the bar, and I do pull a little bit of tension the whole time I'm doing the bar tape, and I do one full wrap, and then I set my pitch. When I'm doing the bar tape, there are two general things that I'm looking for as I'm wrapping. I want to see even intervals that are parallel as I wrap. And I also minding the spacing, because the bar tape is thick in the middle and thin on the edges. So if it's bunched up too close, it'll be a little lumpy, and I'll run out of tape at the top. And if it's too spread out, then it will be it'll also be lumpy, and I could risk touching the bar when I'm riding. So I will watch these intervals as I make my way toward the brake. While I'm doing this, I'm feeling the tape on the underside, make sure that there's not a spot that I can't see, that is bare or poor tension or any lumps. So far it's okay. Now, as I get to this bar, I am starting to get into the first bend, and I adjust the tension to make sure I don't have any bubbles. And this is the way that I do the transition through the brakes. My first pass starts when I have just a little bit of space between the tape and the bottom of the shift body. From here, I use a reference point, which is the back center of the bracket. This point I'm going to cross 3 times. So the first time I start when there's, like I said, a little bit of a gap here, and I set my angle to put the center of the tape right at the center spot of that bracket. And I'm going to wrap over this part of the body, and I'm going to cover a good deal of it. And I didn't mention earlier, but I've already rolled the hoods back on here, which is something you should do first. So now I'm over the top. Now I'm going to make my second pass and go right for the same reference point. And tight. And this time, when I transition here, I'm going to go partially over the body, and then I'm going to cover up the gap that I left the first time around. And again, I'm going to check it to make sure I like the way that feels. And now I'm going to go for my third pass over that center point. And I'm going to, instead of going right over the tape where I did the first time, now I'm going to start my wrap toward the flats of the bar. I'm going to do 1 or 2 wraps here and just try and work this rather tricky bend to make sure that I like the way it feels and the way it looks. And after I do about 2 or 3 passes, I'm going to check back here, and I want to put my hand on this transition here. I like the way it feels. I can feel that the hood's not flipped back on there, and if I'm ever not sure, I can put the hood across to make sure I like it. But I like the way this feels, so I'm going to continue. From here, once we get it out onto the straights, or on the flats, just set my angle. All right, so what I'm looking for a finish point is there's a rise on most modern bars that go up to the point where it matches the stem, and it dips down in the flats. And I like to try and make it so that this is flat with the top of this. So I need to make my cut right about where it is beveled up. So I'm going to continue to wrap past the point where I actually want to cut it. And what I'm going to cut it right about here, even though I've gone past that. And so what I do at this point is I take something that I have, like a pair of tongs from the kitchen that's a spring, or in the shop I use these spanners that don't have much point in the bike shop anymore. And I just stick it on there so it holds it in place. And why I do that is that then I will go and do the other side and start. And when I'm doing the second side, the only thing I'm doing different, aside from doing everything the opposite direction, is I'm watching the other side of the bar to make sure that it's symmetrical. And if I get up in here and it's not symmetrical, then I've not secured it down so I can take the spanners off and I can readjust one or the other. This is not necessary. You can tape it down and it works just fine. So I'll do this other one when the camera's done, but I will show you how I finish. So I've gone past where I want to cut. I keep the tape in the same angle that I've been wrapping. Now, I want my cut to be parallel with the center line of the bike, and the tape is still at the same angle that I've been wrapping down through the flat. So I'll take my scissor and I will just draw a line with a score about where I want to cut it. Then I'll pull it back. And I like my line to be nice and clean. I'll put it back and I'll make sure that I like the line that it leaves, which if I do it the way if I do it right, then it should be parallel with the center of the bike and be a nice clean line. And when I look all the way around the bar, then it's telling me the same story. Then I'll take my electrical tape, which when I'm working on other parts of the bikes or around the house or the garage, I'll rip electrical tape, but not on bar tape because you'll feel those wrinkles when you're riding down the road. And I like to start the edge of the electrical tape right on the edge of the bar tape. And I've got the seam at the bottom where you can't see it. And I will do 3 or so passes. And I don't like to use too much tape. I like to keep a nice clean line. And if you use the decorative tape that came with the bar tape, most of the time it's just garbage and it's not going to come off, which is why I use electrical tape. And I make my cut so again it's at the bottom and I don't see it. And I flip the bar hoods back, and that's normally my favorite part because then you get to feel the fresh bar tape and you get to see if it looks nice. I guess I'm going to wrestle with this today. There we go. That feels great. Forgot about the mallet. Take the blower plug And with that extra material that I left hanging off the end, I'm just going to massage it in to the end. It's not rocket science, but sometimes a little tricky to make it look nice. And I'm just going to try and get as much of that fold of fabric back inside, or bar tape. And if you leave enough, then it's going to be nice and tight. That's how I wrap bar tape. This is something that you stare at and feel every time you're on tour, every time you're riding your bike. I think that picking out a really nice bar tape is a really enjoyable part about road cycling. You don't get the same fulfillment from other types of biking, but if you have a nice bar wrap and some nice bar tape, it goes a long way. It's something I personally enjoy, and I'm sure that it's not the same for everybody. But anyway, thanks for sitting through this. I'm more than happy to demonstrate if you ever have me on tour, or you can also give us a call, get some more bar tape. We made a little bit extra, and yeah, thanks again. Bicycle Adventures.